Just an update for you. I made a statement in an earlier talk that they will include oil as part of the resources from Ukraine. And I hadn't seen the articles that had just come out today about that. And so that is more than true. But then at the same time, we got to see in the articles that came out today a new development, which I hadn't seen, which is a thing called the Fund Agreement. It's not a treaty, even though Ukraine will have to treat it as a treaty. But Zelensky's coming over tomorrow. Just so happens it's, one of the greatest stelliums of planets in the night sky, and it's such a big deal. So tomorrow night, you want to make sure to look at that. But at that same time, you got Zelensky coming to see Trump. And as we said, Trump would solve the Ukrainian war in one telephone call, which he did. Exactly, it was two, but one to each of the two people. And now he's got a deal. Now, this deal, we didn't know what it was, and so people have been speculating, and I speculated earlier that it would not only include lithium, titanium, and graphite, it would also include coal, and it would include, once they get production again, it's the breadbasket of that whole area. Also for Europe, they call it the breadbasket of Europe. And there's many other resources because there is natural gas and there's oil there, two gigantic fields that have been fought over for over 20 years. Who was going to get the rights for them, you see? So Trump knows all of this, especially since he's been following us, obviously, or somebody who talks to him has been following us. And we've been talking about the three pipelines that go across Ukraine and those two oil fields, because that's what Hunter Biden and George Soros and Nancy Pelosi and Mitt Romney and Cofer Black and all of the Americans who were going over there to take advantage of this country that they threw into disarray by two CIA color revolutions. And they used George Soros in Russia to bring down USSR, and they used George Soros in a number of countries for these revolutions. Well, he did it twice in Ukraine, and now you'd see it again right now, except for the brilliant diplomacy that Trump has just displayed in the last 2 days or 3 days or whatever. Anyway, so this is how the fund agreement goes. I've never seen an agreement like this in human history. Never. Not going back to even Babylonians, okay? They were this ruthless. Because it says that we invested in them, and Trump is saying it's $350 billion, and I'm saying that there's that we know that Zelensky says no, he did the audit before we sent our auditor over there, and he only got $75 billion of the whatever. So Zelensky already has his payoff. All right, now Trump knows that that's fraudulent. He knows that also there are many kickbacks and to everybody, and he knows that Europe gave their money as loans, and also we had the Prime Minister of England, Starmer, talking with Trump, and he said, "Oh, we also gave grants." Yeah, grants for what? Grants for your British commandos? Grants for the fact that you declared open war on Putin, though you're a NATO member? I mean, Britain did everything wrong, as well as sent over 200 people to fight against Trump during the election, which, of course, is foreign interference. So Starmer had to wait a couple days as he entertained Macron to make sure that Macron knows that if he sends in any troops right now to disturb this deal that's going down, and I don't know if any of these world leaders have read this deal yet. The deal is very short. It's like all of his executive orders. Who's ever writing them is writing this. So I don't know who it is, but those people are brilliant. This is the tightest agreement I've ever seen in my life. It gives America, from the moment that it's signed and approved by the parliament, supposedly Ukraine is devastated, but they still have parliament meetings. Though you've never seen a picture of their parliament, have you? You've never seen Zelensky with another official from Ukraine, have you? And you've never seen him outside of the front of his building and a couple rooms. Yeah, well, that's all staged. And all the people who went over there, you see, those oil fields had been fought over. That's what the whole Burisma thing was about. Who is going to drill these two gigantic fields that's just going to give a tremendous amount of oil? Now, remember, Russia is one of the biggest oil producers in the world because why? Not because they have the oil. It's because the oil has to go across their border, or it has to go to them to be refined from Kyrgyzstan, from Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and a couple other places which really have the gigantic oil reserves. And so they go into Russia, they refine it, and then they send it into wherever they want, back to those countries. And this is a deal that they have. That's the reason that the USSR never really broke up. Russia still controls anyone who has any resources, except Ukraine. Ukraine, because they were the original rulers of Russia from Kiev, and people don't understand the history there. What you're talking about is a bunch of Vikings that the Russians asked to come take over that whole giant area there because they couldn't do it. They couldn't manage it. And they knew that the Vikings had never been defeated. And so they ask, they'll say that they're mostly Swedish, but they're Vikings. They're a mix of, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. And so anyway, the Vikings came down the Dnieper, and they came to Kiev, and they took over, and they've been the rulers. And so if you ever hear Putin talk for over a short period of time, he'll start telling you this history. And that's the reason he didn't bomb Kiev. And he didn't bomb the pipelines. To my know, I've been watching. As far as I know, none of those 3 pipelines have been touched by either side. Isn't that amazing?
Well, wasn't that when he was interviewing with Tucker Carlson?
Yes.
He was telling the history of Russia in this way, but Tucker was getting bored and he didn't understand the significance. So
Tucker was raised in a CIA family, and so he knows CIA history, which is British history, which is a lie. What Putin said in most of those things, I listened to all those interviews, and basically I'd have to say, yeah, from his point of view, that's true. But remember, he's a ruthless dictator and a killer, so do not give him too much leeway, all right? But he's doing this as a dictator. He doesn't want to be deposed, and he doesn't want his nation to be anything except powerful, right? So of course he's going to lie. Of course he's going to cheat. Of course he's going to take whatever land he can. And is he going to take back the 14 countries that we undermined him through a currency? Basically, it was a plot from America through George Bush Sr., George Soros, and Leo Wanta, who brought down the USSR. And then they did it again later. And they stole their gold. And that's why their gold reserves are so low. But anyway, the fund agreement. There's going to be a fund. Okay, now what goes in the fund? Everything of any value in Ukraine. Every industry owned by the country. The whole shoreline. Shipping. So first off, tomorrow, Zelensky shows up. Trump wants him to sign this agreement. Will he sign it? Yes, he will. Will he change a word in it? No, he won't. He has no choice. Trump has him. He has the leverage. He knows that he stole hundreds of billions of dollars. Okay? And he's already admitted that to the whole world. And he knows he's not going to pay back the European Union any of those loans, about $100 billion. And he knows that he owes the World Bank $27 billion. He owes Russia before the war ever started. And one of the reasons for the war starting was as the pipelines come across Ukraine, they get a percentage. And all they do is nothing because Russia maintains them. And so Russia has been going all through Ukraine all this time, maintaining those 3 pipelines without ever a speck of problems. It wasn't until Poroshenko and before him the president started bombing Donbass. That's when the trouble really started. Now, of course, the Crimea was taken during Obama's time without a shot being fired. And I suggest that Trump is going to build back the bridge to Crimea. That's going to be part of the deal because he's going to control the infrastructure. Okay, so the fund. This isn't a treaty between America and Ukraine because we weren't in a war. We have never been participants. And supposedly the money, $350 billion according to Trump, that Biden gave, which nobody checked him on any of that. Where did he get all that money? Because he was getting a kickback. And we know that Zelensky said he got $75 billion, $75 to $77 billion. That's it. That's all he's ever seen. And the rest never got to him. So that's a lie. Anyway, he got his payoff. So he's going to get out of there. So this agreement will basically say America's coming in. And do you think that Putin's going to continue to attack Ukraine when now this agreement says that we own 50% of the resources of Ukraine, period. In a fund agreement that has no time limit, that we have complete control over. No one else can get in it. It's clearly written in the agreement. You should read this. This is the most brilliant piece of Babylonian. I mean, this is Babylonian banker stuff. Okay, this is so beautiful. So they're giving up everything because why? We're going to head reconstruction there. Now, what usually happens is the following. And it says right here it's going to happen, that a broker comes in from the country that's doing the reconstruction. That's us. We're going to send in a broker. There's only 5 major brokers in America. And the last one that Goldman Sachs did the USSR when it split up in 1991. And then they came in again and did more deals, and they made oligarchs, right? So they took the country's industries that were owned by the country of Russia, USSR, and they gave them to oligarchs. Now, Putin has killed about half those oligarchs. The other half live either in a city of London or in one of Trump Tower highly secure places in New York. There's only a few places and everybody's got their favorite Russian oligarch billionaire, especially for political funds. I mean, we've gone over these people. I'm not going to mention their names. It's too dangerous. Trump knows them. They live in his Trump Towers, okay? And the other one, the 666 building, that was supposed to be, and still is, the most secure building for these billionaires to live in. Well, that's where Zelensky's going to live.
Please, go through the fund.
Okay, so the fund basically says all the oil, that means both oil fields, all the infrastructure, all the state-owned industry. It literally mentions the shoreline, all shipping, all agriculture, all minerals, oil, and then he mentions it twice in here. He goes over to make sure you know you are giving away your country. And then in the last one, he adds a couple other things that cover anything that might possibly be of any value. Okay. So basically Trump's saying, we're going to rebuild your country. We're going to own half of it for the rest of time. We just got a new state. That's the 51st state of America.
I know that's very hopeful when he says all other resources, because I think about the Ukrainian women of childbearing age who've lost the men in this war. And then I think about America, how so many men can't find traditional wives to have families. They want them, but the women here have been feminized, not, feminazi style, and don't want children. So if we could have some kind of special arrangement, President Trump, to bring over Ukrainian women like ASAP, that'd be great.
Okay, let me just tell you how this is a brilliant move. So I don't know who's making Trump do this stuff, okay? But it seems as if he's calm now, and he's basically has the big plan. And the big plan actually has multi-stages, okay? As soon as we get control of Ukraine, what do we do? The second, okay, how does he get Putin to sign? How do I know he's going to get Putin to sign? Because it's just common logic. He's going to say to Putin, I will turn back on and protect the Belarus and the 3 Ukrainian pipelines immediately, and Nord Stream 2 I will repair as part of the peace agreement between you and Ukraine, because now I'm half Ukraine. Notice Zelensky's not with me because he's a pimp and a prostitute, and he's an idiot, and he took his money and he put it in an offshore account, and we'll never hear from him again because he's an idiot. And nobody in the country believes in him. They will vote. They're voting for Trump. The parliament will vote for this thing called the fund agreement. It is not a treaty, but they'll treat it as a treaty because it gives away half the country. Now, either they were going to lose the whole country to Russia, or they were going to have a battle with Europe and NATO and Russia on their land, so there would be nothing but a battleground left. There'd be nothing left. And mind you, at first, I kept saying, okay, Putin is going to lose this war. He's not going to do it fast because he won't hit any of the infrastructure. He hasn't touched a single pipeline now, has he? Why? Because they don't care. They have so many resources that have never been developed. That's the reason North Korea wants in. Do you understand this? North Korea came and gave soldiers so that they would get a piece of the graphite, the lithium, and the what's the other one?
Tungsten?
No. These are the three: graphite, lithium, and anyway, the three metals that are there, which these are all taken from satellites. We don't know that there's anything there. Now, I'm going to hope that Trump is right, that he's betting that there really is all that oil in those two oil fields, and there really is all of those good minerals there that we can get 50% of. So this goes into a fund, and this is the fund agreement, and it's signed by the president of Zelensky, the president, the parliament passes it. Well, they have to pass it. That's a war parliament. If they don't pass it, they get shot. Okay, to begin with. Plus, they want to go with Trump. And then what will that do? Then Trump takes that. Now, do you get that? This is what I told you from the beginning. The whole war is about those pipelines and those oil fields and the Donbass region, which is the breadbasket of Europe. Okay, that's what it was always about. And it was about Ukraine defaulting to America on 27 billion, defaulting to Russia for about 5 billion, defaulting to Europe, and then turning off. This is what started the whole war. They started turning off those three oil pipelines to try to say to Putin, no, drop the 8 million we owe you, and then the other 5 billion, the 8 billion we owe you, and the other 5 billion that we say you owe us for allowing the oil to come across because of the discrepancy in the amount. Okay, so there was like $15 billion on the table. That's what started the war. And then then Poroshenko and his predecessor and Zelensky bombing the Donbass region and killing over 100,000 civilians. Remember, Kiev bombed their southeastern provinces and killed over 100,000 civilians. The whole area was just devastated. That's the area that Russia came in after that happened. And then they voted to go with Russia, not Kiev, twice before Putin finally moved soldiers in. And then he put his tanks on the border and said, don't you dare come over and blow up our power plant and stop the last of the three, because at that point, 2 of the pipelines had already been stopped. Stop the northern pipeline of Ukraine, which goes to Europe. You're going to cut off, $86 billion deal. What did Zelensky do? He cut that off. The British bombed the power plant that ran 3 of those pipelines, one through Belarus, and that's what started the war. And that's when he moved in with the tanks to try to scare Zelensky, but then he didn't understand. No, this is the British. This isn't Zelensky. Zelensky's an idiot. He's nothing more than a stupid, really bad actor puppet. No, so...
Well, let's go to the British and Starmer and meeting Trump.
No, let's go to Putin. Okay, that's the scene. Trump then goes, he's not even got to meet with Putin. He'll meet with Putin because he wants to meet with a real live dictator so that he can say that in his history he met one of, like a Stalin or
He met Putin.
I know, but he loves that stuff, man. He is a complete egotist. I mean, he loves that stuff. So anyway, he's going to talk with Putin, and all he's going to say is, Putin, okay, dude, Nord Stream 2, all 4 pipelines. Which of the 2 Donbass regions do you want? Because I want the one with the coal. You can have the grain. And he'll say, fine. And then he'll say, well, what about that the northeastern region that we beat the fuck out of? I mean, you know how many lives were lost on that battlefield? We want that. And Trump will say, oh, you can have that. We don't care about that. You devastated it. And then he'll have to make a deal with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Lithium, yeah. Anyway, those 3 Baltic countries will get their own pipeline. Okay? They will become filthy rich. And
Lithium.
Lithuania.
Lithuania.
And then I mentioned, lithium, Lithuania.
Is that the other element that you thought maybe was there?
That's what I was trying to remember, which elements I said. There's graphite, which is the number 1 element that's used, lithium, which is used for batteries, and then one other element that is used all the time. So I forget what it is. Anyway, the point is that those 3 countries are going to get a deal. Trump is going to give them their own pipeline. They're going to give Poland the right to charge a tax on the pipeline that already goes to them. There's a small pipeline that breaks off, goes to Poland. He's going to give him total rights on that, make it double the amount, and then they can get literally billions a year. and they're going to cut Germany off because they know Germany blew up Nord Stream 1 and 2 because they had the secret deal. They had to, because Merkel got busted when Trump went to Europe the first time with NATO and said, look, you know that she's cheating all of you, don't you? It's an $86 billion a year deal she has with Russia and telling me to put sanctions on them. This is the, 18th round of sanctions the European Union has put upon Russia. They don't want Russia to enter the European Union. Putin says he'd love to. I don't know if I trust him or not. But the point is that that's what it's all about. If Germany and Russia ever united, that's why Britain started World War I, World War II, and every other war in the modern age. They have to keep they thought they had the supremacy, Britain did, the United Kingdom, over Germany, because Germany would often join with their old enemy France. And that's what they did with Ukraine. They were ready to send 100,000 of their own illegal troops, not NATO troops. That would have started a war that would have tried to pull us in, as exactly what they did in World War I and II.
Oh, I'm going to take this microphone from you because I want you to move on to Keir Starmer being in Trump's office today. And we can't figure out if he knew about this fund agreement before he went into a meeting with Trump. We haven't caught up with the news that far. But it's interesting because here Starmer is, and he has a letter. He gives it to the president because it's the king. And what an honor. President Trump has been invited back to meet the king. And we're laughing. The Brits are realizing that Trump is closing in on them. Now, you had a brilliant name for the Ukraine. You think that should be changed immediately. And then you also said some exciting things for Scotland and what they could be looking forward to. This is all very exciting news. Please explain.
Yeah, instead of Ukraine, it's going to be Trump-crane, because he owns half of it now. And in this agreement, it says they can't hire anybody that he doesn't approve of. They can't let anybody get any of the profits that ever did them harm. That means all the Bidens and the Pelosi's and the Soroses, Victoria Nuland, everyone who Nuland, all those people who tried to get him on an impeachment for saying something wrong to Zelensky, a porno star. Okay, so it's now all comes out. So now, remember, he's letting a lot of these people walk because he knows that down the line it's a bigger deal. He's going to let Zelensky walk and not get him for war crimes. He knows Zelensky was paid off in Belarus in the first months of the war.
Get back to England, the British.
Okay. Starmer's in the office. He's been snubbed for 2 days. He's been slapped across the face already because Macron, the little Macron, who is, how many times the French have to tell him to get out of office, and he still doesn't notice that there's any French people in France. He likes the Muslims and his boyfriend, who he calls his wife. So he's chumming it up. He's trying to feel up Trump's leg, okay, and basically saying, yes, sir, whatever you say, sir, because he was ready to send in, as I said, 50,000 troops and 50,000 from Germany that they had already moved into Poland. Okay, remember when I pointed all this out? And so at any moment, I was waiting for the false flag, but now that Trump comes in and says, I'll solve this war in a day.
Everybody's going to get a deal. Everybody gets a
Germany is going to get screwed.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Germany.
Britain's not getting a deal.
But Germany just declared war on Trump. I mean, the idiot, I don't know if he's got
what did France get?
Pardon me?
What did France get in this to keep their troops out of Poland?
Macron got to feel the thigh of the great Trump. That's the only thing he's going to get out of it. He's an idiot. Go to Paris, folks. Don't believe me. Go to Paris. So the point is, and go to any of these countries where George Soros paid those ships to bring those invaders in.
He paid those ships from USAID money.
Correct, because remember, anywhere where his money went, $86 billion to all the, 80-some different NGOs just in America and 200 throughout the world, then we always chipped in money. And then guess who got some of that money every time? The Clinton Foundation got money from all of that, because when she was in the State Department, she arranged for that. So it was a pay to play with her, always has been. So this is nothing new. So what's happening now is Macron doesn't mean anything. Starmer's in there, and Trump at one point turns to him without unsolicited. Nobody asked him anything. He says, we got to stop those drugs coming across the Canadian border, and turns to Starmer and says to him something to the effect, my impression was, dude, you're in charge of this. You got to stop this now. Or I'm going to put you in jail for sending over those 200 experts, just like you did in the previous election with me, with Cambridge Analytica, to try have election interference, which is beyond a federal crime. You are a war actor. And so, hey, Mr. President, please don't put me in jail. I got my get out of jail free card. It's from King Fat Fingers himself, Sausage Fingers, and he's going to invite you over. Oh, to do what? Go where Jimmy, his friend, used to take him to the Children's Hospital and have some, he's trying to convince Trump to be a pedophiliac like so many of the other people in Britain? No, this is disgusting. And Sharber was part of the deal when they declared war on Russia. So if you think NATO has any effect on any of this, they try to use it on Trump. Trump just dodges them. So when Starmer was there, someone was asking from the press, what happens if the British go in? And he actually went down the list. He says, Trump says, there's not, he looks at him before he even asks the question, says, there's not going to be any NATO. And we're going in, but he wouldn't define what we're going in, because obviously nobody had read this thing he had created. And so he didn't say what we're doing, but then they started asking him questions, but he said, we will be there. And so then when they start asking questions, someone says, but wait, if the British are there in peacekeeping and the Russians attack them, will you help defend them? And he says, no, they have a long record of being able to take care of themselves. In other words, he just severed his relationship with them.
Well, that's what Starmer was saying in the beginning. He was talking about that wonderful relationship we have and everything with each other. Of course, cats know what that special relationship is. But I just want to make sure the listener caught that when he turns to Starmer and talks about the fentanyl coming over the Canadian border and implies that Starmer is behind it. That is a shot that says to Starmer, I know the British are the Canadians.
Now remember, this war in Russia was funded by, that's right, your president, Joe Biden, who in the White House gave 20% of our oil costs, and literally the second week that he came into the White House, to the Russians. So throughout this entire time, we were giving the Russians they needed for the war, the money they needed. We bought 27%, and he spent all of our oil reserves and then refilled them up again with Russian oil. Closed down all of our oil, the XL pipeline, all of it, all from Alaska, closed down all the offshore, and then we were dependent upon Russia. So when Russia's pipelines through Ukraine got turned off, everybody thought America and Russia would be really just devastated. No, Biden had a special deal. The oil was still delivered here, don't worry. Oh, let's see, we're almost ready to go to war with Russia, but we're still getting all our 27% of our oil from Russia. They also do all of our downgrading of uranium. So when you want to talk about why North Korea is there, well, who do you think gave them those ICBMs? Who do you think gave them their atomic weapons? Who do you think wants their rare earth minerals? Oh, well, wait a second. Don't get me started on that. That's why the North Koreans are there. So what is Trump going to say to Putin? He's going to say, look, dude, I have you exactly where I want you, but I'm going to be a nice guy. So let's just sit down. And I know, I'm going to have to give up some things. But see, Trump wanted Moldova. He wanted Georgia. He wanted all the rest of everything on the Black Sea. Then he could be the king he wants to be. Is he going to get that? No. But is he going to have cooperation with Trump for businesses there? Yes, it says right in here, shipping. It says right in here, shorelines. It says in here, all mining, all oil, all everything. Your firstborn, and especially all your good-looking women that we need over here in America. No, it's all a done deal. And Trump will be having the Miss Universe pageant there in a few years after he has it on the Gaza Strip at the Gaza Trump. But it's the same thing he's doing in Gaza, same thing he's going to do in Greenland, same thing he's going to do in Canada if they let him. He is an expansionist. What do people not understand about this man? He's always an expansionist. And why? Because he's got the biggest ego in the universe. So Well, let him do his thing, especially if it's for your benefit. So for us, dudes and dudettes, we just got one of the richest resource countries in the world for $350 billion. What would be the returns? My estimates in the next 10 years, 3 to 5 trillion.
And that was all within the first 100 days. And Greenland has yet to be conquered.
External instead of internal revenue service, he said it's all external revenue services could be the revenue coming in that he then creates a new department on how to spend it. And what does he have? He just simply says, gets the Congress, and who would vote against this after he beats them up as he's doing? We're going to put it into infrastructure here in America, give it back to the Americans, right? So basically, we're talking, that's another $1 trillion deal that I had not calculated because I'm not that smart. I hadn't figured out that he could do this like that. But he is in the crux of history. He has some leverage that I cannot explain. But yes, Putin will go for this deal, and I suggest that they usually want to wait a while until everything's over, so they'll do a ceasefire, and then Trump probably wants a new election. He doesn't want to deal with Zelensky anymore. He wants to deal with some intelligent people. He's going to get his brokers in there. He's going to get his companies in there, and he's going to be the oligarch of Ukraine, or as I like to call it, Trump-crane.
I heard someone the other day say, it was one of these globalists that we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves if we didn't work 9 to 5, that is what defines the human being, and that a universal basic income would take that away, and that we just wouldn't know what to do as humans. And I wanted to respond to that because the way I see the New Earth and the golden age of America is that we don't get a universal basic income, but we get a dividend from the country and the wealth of the country. Trump has already talked about that, 20% going back to the American people. And maybe that will wind up being enough money to have a family and only one person in the family working. But what then do we do to find ourselves? Well, Douglas and I have written many books on that. You can find it at ourspirit.com. And basically, I would say that you find a way to serve others. If you want to be in a medical and health field and serve, and it's not about the money truly. And for us, it's about how we serve you in our retirement. And we hope that over the last 8 to 10 years, you have felt that we were of service. And the other thing is entertainment. Entertaining one another. That's what we found in the world of the internet and YouTubes. That people like to be entertained. Who doesn't? We read the headlines, we trust those sources, and then we want to see a funny video. So you can entertain people. And then nobody, unless they choose to, would have to work 9 to 5. And I also like the use of robotics for repetitive tasks that the human being, it brings no meaning to them. So that would be nice to have robotics doing that so that people could be free. But look, there are so many things a human can do and express itself. It doesn't have to be a slave to the bankers.
Now, I wanted to point out all the people who benefit from this. This is what else he's going to do. Now, the reason that he can get Putin is the following. When Zelensky turned off the last pipeline, he took the $86 billion a year deal of oil and sent it in a pipeline south of Kyrgyzstan, or anyway, their biggest oil dealer there that he has control of. He sent it into China, and China paid $86 billion the same day. So the day it got turned off, Putin sold it to China. Now, here's the problem. China then screwed him, like China does for everyone. So the very first deal that happened, that it looked like China and Russia, supposedly the two people, Gog and Magog, or whoever gets, they join together, right? No, they became enemies because he never got paid. Because the way that the Chinese do every deal, they think that they have to have the upper hand. Well, you can't have an upper hand with a dictator named Putin, okay? So did you hear of any other deals at all since then between Russia and China? No, you haven't. Because nobody does deals with China that is intelligent. Sorry, you will not win. And so basically, Europe will all benefit because they'll get back their oil. Everybody but Germany. Germany will be known for what it is. The Brits, well, I don't care about them. And
we have friends and cats over there.
Well, yeah, but it's such deceit. It goes back so many thousands of years. You can't defeat the British monarchy. Look what they did. They sent over a Stormer to.
They're good people, and so that they have to be able to have asylum here in America or someplace like that.
Him pulling that letter out of his pocket was one of the stupidest diplomatic moves I've ever seen in my entire study of history since humanity started writing anything down. Pulling a letter out, inviting a president in a press conference when everybody's listening to open it and read an invitation. What if the president would have said no? What if the president would have said no? That's why it's so stupid. You have diplomatic channels, but why did King Charles, they never wanted him and they kept putting in so many fake Elizabeths? Because King Charles messes it always up. What did he do? He couldn't allow Stormer, who was a criminal, to go there and face Trump. And you notice Stormer had his legs crossed, his hands crossed, his eyes crossed, everything was crossed. And then he pulls out the letter thinking that this would solve all problems. He's going to treat Trump like the king that he is. No, Trump will take Scotland and that'll become Trump Scott. Or he will take Wales, or he'll take Ireland. Because why? Nobody wants to be part of the United Kingdom. But he chewed out Stormer and basically said, we will not come to your defense if you come into Ukraine when I am fleecing the resources like you have done for hundreds and hundreds of years at the British East India Company and so forth. I'm doing it this time. I'm the oligarch and I'm doing it for everybody, but you can bet Trump is going to benefit. There will be a Trump Towers in Kiev. Mark my words.